This is Rick Rule for Rule Investment Media, sponsors and producers of the Natural Resource Investment Symposium, July 23rd through 27th in Boca Raton, Florida. This is another in our series of CEO interviews where we seek to introduce our attendees to the companies that will be exhibitors at the conference so that both the exhibitor and the attendee can make the best possible use of the conference. Note that every exhibitor, every public company at the exhibitor is owned in accounts owned or managed by myself. So there is an implicit conflict of interest. That also means, of course, that every exhibitor has been vetted. The guest right now is a longtime friend of mine, Dave Cole, CEO of EMX Royalty. Dave, welcome to the program, and thank you so much for your efforts on behalf of my clients. And also for your ongoing support of the Rule Investment Symposiums.
Thank you for your support, Rick. My pleasure to be here today talking to you.
Let's look back. You've worked 2 decades now to be an overnight success, Dave. So let's talk something about your background, why we should care what you have to say, and the background of the key people around EMX Royalty, please.
You know, Rick, my background goes back a fair ways. My grandfather owned the Blackhawk Placer Gold Mining Company here in Colorado, taught me how to prospect for gold. I had just an incredible passion, a bit of a gold bug actually from early on. I used to build sluice boxes and go out panning and sluicing. Ended up getting degrees in geology and in economic geology, worked for Newmont Mining Corporation for 18 and a half years before going forward and founding this company. And it's been an absolute delight. My passion here has been the value creation of prospecting and delineation of mineral resources. And the most important thing that I can do at EMX is hire fantastic folks and engage them to contribute. And we've certainly done that in spades with folks like Dr. Eric Jensen from PhD out of University of Arizona. And he just has an unyielding passion to go out and look at rocks and acquire prospective mineral rights, and has become quite an entrepreneur throughout his career. Married with him is Dr. David Johnson, who is managing the Americas for us. And he grew up here in Colorado, spent his time kicking around the old mining districts, got the mining bug, got his PhD in economic geology, and is a force to be reckoned with. And we've got a whole host of people like that. And then on the legal side, you know, I should point out Duncan Large. We hired Duncan away, Malik Duncan. Sorry about Duncan Large is another guy in the company, a PhD who helped us out in Europe. I could go on and on about these guys. Malik Duncan, hired him away from Newmont, where he was part of their legal team for 11 and a half years. And we're delighted to have him here now. Really helps us out on the legal side, keeping our documents in excellent shape as we negotiate and advance those documents. I could go on and on with respect to the team, the board of directors, and it's my pleasure and humbling to work with these folks.
The point is that all good resource companies have both physical, but more importantly, human resources, which you've spent 20 years building. Tell us now about EMX Royalty. It's a sort of a hybrid royalty company and prospect generator. So tell us about your business model, but also tell us about the principal assets, the things that people who would like to invest will be investing in.
Yeah, happy to. You know, I'm passionate about the business model. That is our unique and defining feature, and it's our hedgehog for sure. You mentioned prospect generation. You know, we're hardcore believers in the prospect generation business model and have been from the very beginning. And you know, well executed prospect generation business model results in a portfolio of royalties. And after we've been successful developing a portfolio of royalties, some shareholders said, you know, you really need to put the word royalty into your name, and we evolved the name to EMX Royalty Corporation. And we have continued to build out the base of our pyramid with the early stage assets through prospect generation. Some of those thanks to other people's money being spent on those assets. They've worked their way up the pyramid and become cash flowing. And then to augment the top and the middle of the pyramid, we also buy royalties. And we're able to do that in a patient manner. We're the value players on the block and have successfully built a very nice full pyramid of assets with distinct cash flow. And you mentioned that we want to point out, of course, the value drivers within that. But I'll tell you that even though they're not specific assets, the real reason why you want to own a portfolio of royalties is for the deep portfolio discovery optionality. And we have 100 kilometers of drilling a year going into our projects worldwide, 170 some royalties, 277 mineral property positions. And thanks to those drill holes going in at no cost to us, discoveries are being made around the world. But the value drivers at the top of the pyramid, which are producing the cash flow, that would include our royalty on the Caserones mine, now operated by Lundin Mining Corporation. That has a multi-decade mine life, copper and molybdenum. Very excited about that asset, paying $8+ million a year to us at this point in time. And then I would be remiss not to mention the very important Timok royalty, which has been the subject of a negotiation relative to whether the royalty had been diluted or not. And we're on the cusp of getting that settled, and that'll be a watershed moment and a catalyst for a repricing of our security. Of course, we have the Leeville royalty on the Carlin Trend, operated now by Barrick as the lead company of the joint venture with Newmont at Nevada Gold Mines. That's paying $2+ million a year. The advancement of Balya, the lead zinc silver operation in Turkey, which is a region of the world that I've worked for a very long time. I was the exploration manager of Turkey before leaving Newmont to found this company. Balya's been a big success. That's producing nicely. The shareholders are going to see some nice payment increases from the production there, where we have a 4% royalty, and they've continued to have excellent success on the discovery side of that equation as well. So, and that's a good example of execution of the model. The Balya project, of course, it's fun to talk about the ones that are distinctly successful, but we paid $17,000 for that license in auction before the discovery was known, built the geological model illustrating the prospectiveness, and sold that to a competent Turkish company. And now that is in production, and I believe will become a multi-million-dollar per year royalty within a couple of years, expecting $1+ million this year. Just that one royalty alone, Rick, 4% royalty on a lead zinc silver mine in Turkey, is worth more than all the money we've invested in the prospect generation business model over 2 decades.
I think we should, or I think we would be remiss if we didn't talk, in addition to the royalty business and the prospect generation business, the fact that over 20 years in your business, you've also been very good merchant bankers. You've used your geological abilities and your commercial expertise to, in certain circumstances, create your own joint venture partners. And those activities, those investing activities, have been extremely rewarding to shareholders, generating probably the bulk of the cash that you've reinvested. Perhaps you could talk about the history of that business.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. Of course, thank you so much, Rick. I'm very pleased that the board of directors have given us the degrees of freedom to be able to prospect generate, buy royalties, and also make strategic investments. And the net profits from our strategic investing, which typically is an activist shareholder in a company doing some dynamic things that's identified by our geologists that say to us, we cannot not own this stock. And in the history, we have netted close to 60 million USD. And as you stated, Rick, those monies have been invested right back into royalty generation and royalty acquisition, further building the portfolio.
So, Dave, we've talked about who you are. We've talked about the investment case, really, which is other people's money. Millions, tens of millions of dollars every year is being invested in your asset base by other people. And then, of course, at the top of the pyramid, the royalty themselves, where you have no obligation for capital expenditure. You have no obligation for sustaining capital investment. You have no obligation for operating expense. And in fact, your gross is your net. A very attractive a very attractive package. What happens in the next 12 to 18 months? What are the things that you look forward to as being catalysts, as paths to progress?
Yep, starting at the top of the pyramid, it would be advancement of production at Caserones. Now that Lundin is in there, and they likely will be more aggressive than JX Nippon was in operation of that mine. The next would be, of course, the settlement of the Timok issue, which we're expecting quite shortly. And that has been announced in our annual and quarterly report, that those negotiations have gone very, very well. And that will become a kingpin asset within the portfolio. And then as we go deeper within the portfolio, we're looking at a number of ongoing discoveries within that portfolio, which speak to this whole concept of discovery optionality that comes at no cost to us because of the tens of millions of dollars of drill money that go into our projects. And I would like to add that, we like to talk about the amount of drill money and the discovery optionality, but we also have averaging over $100 million a year in mine development expenditures. Also does not come out of our pocket, to our benefit. And so it's the portfolio effect in spades. And a good example would be the Kendrick Resources just announced 11 meters of 3.5% nickel on a project in Norway. I heard David Harquell at Franco one time say that some of their best royalties were projects they didn't know the name of a few years prior. And when you own hundreds of royalties and they're all being advanced by other people's money, you can just sit back and say, oh, they just hit on that one. And so the catalysts are going to be throughout the pyramid of the portfolio, Rick.
Dave, this conference is meant to be used by its attendees in conjunction with the educational materials at the Rural Mining Classroom. And what I'd like is the name and contact details of living, breathing human beings at EMX Royalty who can offer our attendees a curated journey through the company, some living, breathing human being that our investors can talk to so that they can learn more without necessarily having to navigate all of the website themselves. We'd like our people to have curated experiences.
Well, it's my pleasure to talk to shareholders and incipient shareholders and interested parties, Rick. I spend quite a bit of my time doing that, and I really enjoy it. I love talking about the business model, of course, and the advancement of this portfolio that we've created over the last 20 years. I'm Dave Cole, and I can be reached at dave@emxroyalty.com. That's the quickest and best way to find me. And then Scott Close is our longtime investor relations manager and director of investor relations. And he also just has a passion to talk about our business and loves to meet folks that are interested in the business. And he can be contacted at s.close@emxroyalty.com.
Best possible answer, Dave. We love it when the CEO says, the buck stops here. Talk to me. Ladies and gentlemen, you heard it from the boss. He wants to talk to you. David, thank you so much for 20 years of unstinting effort on behalf of my clients while I was still employed at Sprott. Thank you, too, for your ongoing support of the Natural Resources Investment Symposium. It's a delight to interview you and a delight to see you down in Boca.
Great to be seen. Great to see you, sir.